People of the good internet, please attend. We're going to be talking about some Doctor Who tonight. We're going to be going through the two-parter finale to this series of Doctor Who, The Wish World and the Reality War, which is the last episodes of season 2 of 2013 Doctor Who, which like third iteration, whatever you like to call it. I'm welcoming two companions who couldn't be more apt for the occasion. We've got one who's regenerated herself, and we've got one who tried to be part cyborg once by getting one of those Google Glass Eye things.
Yeah, let me live that down.
Much like the kind of fellas who've got their hands stuck in the table in this episode. So please welcome Eliza and Will. How are you doing, guys?
Pleasure.
Really good, thank you. It's lovely to be here. Finally.
Lovely to have you. Yeah, lovely to welcome a new guest companion. We kind of try and vary it up and have different perspectives, different people and different ideas on the show. So it's always fun when we do, and we just get Will out every opportunity we get.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, oh, it's like the season's coming to an end soon. Am I going to hear from Squee?
Well, you see, it usually ends up towards the end of... So say again?
Will is literally the season finale.
Yeah, so basically it gets towards the end of the series, and I've realized because of the time zone difference I haven't bothered working it out, and that's where I'm going, oh, I must invite Will on. I must work out the time zone, and then I forget, and then it's the end of the series. It's like, I haven't had Will on yet. Will, whatever time you want, just tell me.
I really honestly, I really appreciate it, because I love this show. I love Doctor Who, but you know, being a born and raised Californian, I don't have anyone to speak to otherwise with a good proper perspective on the show, you know, from the culture that it stems from. So it's always both eye-opening and interesting to have our discussions, and I always look forward to it.
And I'm going to say this genuinely. Sorry, I meant to say this to you before we went on air, but nothing that's kind of secretive or anything. But there are a few things in this episode which parallel with certain things happening in certain countries, some which some of us might be in. If anything gets kind of too real or anything and you want us to move on, just say it or change the subject, then we will just move right past. I just want to make that offer because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable talking about stuff which you have to think about all the time at the moment.
Yeah, the bone dinosaur situation in California at the moment is really triggering.
Yeah, it's mainly that. That was my chief concern. But if there's anything else which might tread a little close to home, shall we say, thematically in this episode, I don't know.
Yeah.
We good, Will?
Oh yeah, definitely. Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
I thought I already gave the thumbs up.
Oh no,
I'm
you
fine.
just stood there really blankly, like you were in some sort of Nam style flashback, which I would also understand at this current moment in your country's history.
Anyway.
But yeah, no, it's genuinely though. I just don't want anyone to feel shitty because we've just had a lovely conversation about Doctor Who. So yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Yeah, so the baby at the start, right at the beginning, I noticed was the 7th baby of the 7th child. Wonder if that maybe was a little nod to the 7th Doctor, which the Rani had previously appeared with. And we do later get shots from all 3 times the Rani was featured previously from the 2 TV main episodes. And then there was a Children Need sketch where they crossed over with the EastEnders, where you get the 3rd shot of her from, which I thought was really nice. But I don't fully get, because like I thought to begin with this was meant to be a storybook at the beginning, the pre-credit bit of the first 2 episodes. But it kind of, she then says it's 100 years in the past. So I take it we're in the real world. I still don't get from what happens later how the baby's got its powers.
Yeah, I think for me, I feel like it's maybe connected to the gods, and maybe sort of when David Tennant did the whole thing with the soul, that's probably invited all sorts of strange and unusual things into the universe, and that's probably one of them, like the myth of the 7th son of the 7th son, which is quite sort of an old English kind of myth. So I think they've sort of used that just as a stepping stone, just as a way to create the Wish World, I'm assuming.
You see, I'm fine with that if they'd landed that and they'd said that's what they've done. There are too many instances, I would say, in these last 2 series where RTD leaves it to headcanon what happens, to the point, I think, where you're kind of missing something from the show. Will, your thoughts?
I thought that they were keying in on basically lucky number 7, and I feel like there's somehow a 3rd 7. It's like the 7th son of a 7th son, and who is I feel like there was somehow one more 7 worked in. So I really think they were just kind of keying in that this is and I think in other publishings I'd prefer not to talk about now, they gave the number 7 some weight as well. So that may have carried over. And because of this unique circumstance, that's how the God of Wishes was able to make an entrance into this reality. Even though it's the first one we got that didn't have a harbinger, huh?
I mean, I must admit, I didn't think of these 7s which woven throughout. That's very good. And like both of your theories, I think work very nicely together and all make sense. It's just, I do want them sometimes for them to have written the plot and not me have to write it in my head later.
Yeah.
I feel like we're doing too much of that at the moment with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And using the word Mavity way too much. Just lose it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a one-note joke. Fine, funny in one episode, but past that.
Exactly.
And I loved it when the Doctor woke up with his companion in bed and then was presented with his baby. I did suddenly remember Peter Davison particularly talking about the rule of no nookie in the TARDIS, to the point where they wouldn't even let him comfort the female companions when Adric died, which he was going to say, what, you might just supportively put an arm around their shoulder, but he was only allowed to do that with Adric as kind of like a male companion, and grr, that's okay. How times have changed.
Exactly. And it was very head on as well. Like, it was very sort of no subtlety about it. That his Doctor's child is married to Belinda in this wish world. You know, they weren't sort of dancing around it. It was very clearly acknowledged.
Yeah, and it's sort of like later they did do a little bit to say that it, you know, they did not make Whoopi, I think was suggested. It was like when they were in this world, the baby was there from the beginning, but it's just real to them.
All ready to go. Yeah.
So I'm sort of glad they clarified, because otherwise it's a bit, I mean, it's even worse than it already is in that world. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Oof.
There was so many kind of like, this really did hit on the just every kind of unpleasant a guy can be and that can wish upon people in lots of ways. It was kind of really well done for that. I thought I love the idea of a sort of like evil Jack Norrie telling the story of the superior race, shall we say? Like, it seemed very much of those vibes.
Definitely. Because I will say that it did at least make me feel a little better now in understanding why the Ronnie needed Conrad. And then I reflected on it as well, and I realized, oh, well, he's the storyteller because he's also this person that was previously, you know, kind of an InfoWars-ish, but in the field, you know, propagandaist. So he's already been spinning stories and accumulating a following. So he's the one that would be able to have that level of energy and desire to have his world manifest.
Yeah, I mean,
and hatred for the Doctor as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised this sort of like one angle of the sort of unpleasantness of a character like that they didn't seem to explore, because he was disabled, which they showed. There was like he couldn't even imagine a trans person, which they sort of like. I liked it, but it's sort of like the logic didn't work really, because like the disabled people, because he didn't see them, they just were in the shadows. Whereas the trans person disappeared. I just want the powers to be equal. I just want them to work consistently, whichever way you want it. I think you're totally right. It's a lovely moment, but I just want things to make a little sense. I'm missing a bit of I'm missing a bit of Yeah, exactly. It's like there is so much cool stuff and so much I enjoyed. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to sound like the really worst nitpicker, but these things really take me out of the episode when I can't see things working consistently. And a lot of nerds, let's face it, we feel like that. We are people who like rules to certain things. Like, I get not wanting to be so tied down to canon that you can't create ever, and that's very important to avoid. But there's also going the other end of just nothing really making any logical sense.
Yeah, like picking, you can't, when you're telling a story, you just can't pick the elements that work for your story. You know, it's like, oh, well, he was a disablest before, so he knows that the disabled of the world exist. But, you know, a trans person, I find it very hard with a person with that level. Hey, couldn't even conceptualize one. So why wouldn't they be somewhere? I'm completely in agreement with you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's, and they also didn't, sorry, say again?
Where was she? Like, where was she when she was
exactly?
sort of in some limbo.
That'd been fascinating. Maybe they could have done that. Like you could have had it so it's like another world that you're separated off in this void, much like the Zero Room. It could exist in the same space. So you tie it thematically as well.
Mm-hmm.
And like they managed to break through. That's how they kind of escape, is by weakening whatever kind of magic holds in there. You know, there's certain ways you can just make it thematically stronger. It's like with the Bone Beasts. I thought they could have been Reapers, and then you're tying into a past. So enemy, even if you want them to be Bone Beasts to begin with, they could sort of, when they go to feed, they can transform into Reapers. You know, there's no reason why they have to exist in one form, and it would have tied something in that's been used before in Doctor Who. The only thing I'd say, I meant to complete that thought, was that the only people they didn't seem to show kind of like hateful kind of man towards was race, which I was like, that guy feels like he would be a racist as well if he likes only people like himself.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of felt notable, and you could have told that so well through the first Black Doctor. You've had the first openly gay Doctor, and they've explored that so well, and like and they have in episodes like the story in the engine. That was so fantastic, so much a story that only the first Black Doctor could tell. I thought that should win in here. It seemed like a missed perfect opportunity to organically do that.
Unless he thought he really hit the ball out of the park, if I can use the analogy, with Dot and Bubble last season. It's like, oh well, I really hit the race point home and how it could impact our first Black Doctor. But I agree with you completely. But you will notice, of course, in this wish that Conrad has built, he's first thing to look at is that, you know, from everything we've seen and everything we know about Ncuti as well, you know, he has put him into this very binary heterosexual relationship, right? So that's already pinning him down to something that he isn't, and forcing his will upon him. But notice also that it is a couple of people of color as well, because only they can be together, kind of thing. So there might be some subtext.
There is some, I think, and it's like the when you've got the three women, Indian women, sat down talking subserviently. I think it's hard not to think their race in conjecture with the way that they're talking, and that they're kind of second class citizens. But it is very much through the lens of them being women that the writing tells it. And I just think I think it's just it seems like just a natural element that it's weird for its absence when you're like talking about people who are going to be excluded. I mean, hell, I kind of start to worry about kind of the way people who are neurodivergent get treated, because in the States, their health secretary kind of wants autism to be seen as just a disease, something to be eradicated, which is, I mean, that's fucking genocide for my people. Sorry, pardon my language, but
no.
I feel a little at risk here.
I mean, as a person who formally last year was told and diagnosed as having some ADD elements, for example, you know, it's like there's a aspect of me that I never knew, and like, would I be on this list? But I also want to point out that you have to remember too, this was written and shot a year ago. So this reality we're living in at that point was envisioned as a nightmare, and now it's what I wake up in. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, sorry, I've got to say it. I feel for you so much, my friend. I just hope everything's okay in time. But yeah, it is
what it is.
Yeah. But anyway, get on to lighter fare. It did seem weird that just if you're going to just go for this hateful guy, he would hate on any group. It's like he was different from himself. That's complete MO of this guy. But it was played very well by that guy, and he's just got that Aryan look about him. Sorry to the actor, but he plays it just beautifully.
He does smug real well too.
Yeah. And his change from like this nice guy he appears to be at the beginning, and his transformation to this cold Git who's kind of set Ruby up is just, it was so well done. I just gotta hand it to that guy.
He fooled me like halfway through the episode. I'm like, oh my god, he's lovely, like what a lovely guy. And then just like that, just change. Oh my god, just took me by surprise.
Yeah, I thought he's kind of more in the Rory mold, maybe, that he's a bit bumbling. He makes the wrong choice sometimes, but he kind of corrects it by the end. I thought that was going to be very much the arc, and that was a very pleasing little subterfuge there.
I always like a good heel turn, but like that one I was not expecting, because I mean, after everything we've seen Ruby kind of go through, and even with Ruby's unanswered questions, want to get into that, but everything we've seen her go through, you're like, oh look, she can be happy, oh, she's getting happiness. So in that respect, it was good, and I understand he's obviously setting up for the finale, but I don't know. I both enjoyed it, but also didn't like it at the time when it happened.
Yeah, totally. Just hi to the Daleks who are watching. They're always out for me. It's the Doctor thing.
Hello.
I was on a podcast earlier today, and the 11th Doctor showed up in the chat.
Nice.
What is going on the tubes of you? What is happening in the world?
We Doctors we get about, as do the Daleks. I mean, I'm surprised that the Daleks have a social media wing, but I'm impressed. What can I say? They will use any of our modern technology against us. That's the way. Just a few notes about I thought the mug smashing was a nice visual way of representing what was happening in the Doubts. That was very nice. The baby is the cutest thing ever. I loved how interactive the baby was with with Shooty and with Belinda. I thought that was really nice and really well done. I'm kind of guessing some of that is just you work with whatever the baby says in the room, and it's so it was so lovely. They did have a baby which was very chatty, and that was nice. And I did not at all twig it was the same baby from Space Babies.
I mean, even the same name, but I'm right there with you. I had to have the internet tell me.
Yeah. I mean, it should be right there, but nothing. If I was a younger geek, I would have been all over that.
I did recognize, but I didn't. I thought, is it going to be the same one? 'Cause my brain was telling me it's not. It was sort of saying, no, it can't be Poppy because Space Babies was a totally different story. So when it come out in the reality world, I was like, all right, okay. But I did do some Googling afterwards just to double check.
Yeah, totally. I love the fact that also when they were reading the story, it was Doctor Who, which is, as Moffat pointed out, they said that all over the earlier series. So why not own it and have a little bit of fun with it? I think it's always fun if they kind of slip in Doctor Who in the kind of into the dialogue, which is kind of rather nice. It always just has me punching the air. Still, as a grown adult,
the Target novels, isn't it? And the old annuals, it's sort of a little nod to them.
And it's like when they had during Matt Smith's time, the show's already 50 years old, and they've still end an episode on the cliffhanger of the blue-headed friend of ours, Dorian Moldovar. Him going, Doctor Who, he shouts Doctor Who 3 times, and Matt Smith basically gurns to the camera. And after 50 years, that's the end of an episode still. It's perfect. I love it. And I will never get tired of that ever.
It's brilliant. It's just nice to hear it out loud sometimes. It's just really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I want the show to be taken seriously at its best. I love it when you get an episode which treats the show's premise as if it's real world, but little bits of fun with that. Do we not have hearts? Come on, we've got to have fun here somewhere.
There's always a little bit of fun.
Exactly. The biryani just sounded really lovely. I made notes while I was hungry, apparently. Loved the fact that you did have Ruby and Belinda in this episode, so I thought they used them very well, so they could sort of at times cover kind of 3 different locations with your TARDIS crew, and it felt like they weaved in them so they met just enough. But Ruby got her little side mission working with a sort of disabled network, which was really great. I did want to say there was just a couple of bits, and this is sort of on the argument which people have said about Democrats losing in America and the left as a whole throughout the world. I think there's a couple of comments here. Ruby says some comments about, oh, did you hear something? And the deaf guy goes oh, what? Oh, sorry, the blind guy goes, oh, what? Because I'm blind, my other senses are heightened. And then there's another thing where she got called ableist when she goes, the 3 of us aren't much for a spy team. I sort of feel it's that thing of insulting our allies, kind of I love the fact there's so much representation, in RTD's world, and I think it's really great. Yeah. But I think it almost feeds the trolls when you insult people who are on your side. That's how I feel about neurodiversity. If someone says something which I don't agree with, I try first of all to engage them with the conversation. If they're just being an arsehole, that's fine. I will just walk away. But if there's someone who's open to listening and to learning, I'd rather gets them through kindness than telling off. And a little bit, it feels like sometimes I'm being told off by a show from people who I support and I'm friends with. Thoughts?
I do. I get that. On the other side of that, though, I do kind of like how it shows a bit of fallibility with Ruby. Something. It's kind of a bit like Donna's mum in the Star Beast when she was sort of stumbling about, when she was talking about Rose and sort of stumbling over and saying, "Oh, I don't know what to say," and thing. It's real, if that makes sense. It's a little bit real, and definitely. It's not just sort of sugarcoating everything. Because that's one of the reasons I really like the Star Beast. It showed it wasn't sort of everything's perfect and blah-de-blah. Like these things happen in real life, and quite relatable, if that makes sense. So I think there's like maybe two sides.
Yeah, no, sorry. I just wanted to I totally agree with that. And I thought that was done really well. I would have preferred something like that. I preferred Ruby to actually say something wrong to get told off more. You make it real. If you're going to tell her off, actually get her saying something which is a little bit reading a stereotype. Neither of those felt like that. And the guy, I'm sorry, but if he's visually meant to be seen as blind, that she would have known that, which is what he's playing from a comment. His eyes weren't milk. There was no signs of him. I didn't know he was blind until he mentioned it. And it has to be visually apparent for her to have made that mistake. Do you know what I mean?
Right. That's true.
There's so many levels on which both of those don't work for me. And Ruby included herself in, we don't make good spies. How's it being ableist if she includes? Do you know what I mean? It's like, actually have her saying something which is thoughtless for a second. That's okay, but it's like RTD wants to have his cake and eat it too. My character's too good to actually say something wrong, but I'm going to get them told off as if they did. That's my problem. I want to be very specific because I do think, you do want those real situations. And there have been so many times when I've accidentally said something which has misgendered someone. I've apologized straight afterwards, and it's a real situation, and I own that, and I try and do better. So just get her owning it. That's all I'm asking for, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, after Bell slip, they kind of report her, and the doctor gets reported. And again, this kind of fascistic state is really hammered home by that idea of report on your neighbors. It's classic, misinformation tactics.
But also what we found out later in the episode, that's another plot point. I really wish this wasn't a recurring theme where I was thoroughly confused. It's like, okay, so the Ronnie needs the doubt to help crack reality, but they're going to process people somehow in some way that doubt the story, the reality. So which way are you going here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was pulling in two directions, wasn't it? A little bit. Started like the first part of the episode was that.
It's like you try and think about it. It's like suddenly, my eyes have gone cross. Oh.
See again, but instantly I'm trying to make excuses for it by headcanoning, because now I'm thinking it's like, it could have been that if they raise too much doubt before it fills up, it can break the reality. So you need some doubt, but you need it not to spill out too much. But they don't say that. Again, I'm writing the plot for them. This is what's annoying.
Unless there was some subtext there that they're taken away for some type of conversion therapy, which you would imagine would happen with a person like Conrad, imagining that. Yeah. But I didn't really pick up on that, because the only thing we saw is when the doctor and Belinda are taken to the tower. So.
And if you're going to go really dark on it, when the baby says no, it's like, there's a baby here. You need to take it in. Yeah. Do you think maybe it was protected, the baby was protected by the fact that the Rani needed the doctor to have the baby? I think it works with the whammy somehow. I don't know. Again, I'm writing it for them. Susan Twist, I'm just going to say generally, I won't go into it too much, but I thought Susan Twist was just put there to no effect to make us think that Susan's going to appear here, which she doesn't, after them setting up Susan, after us getting really excited. Or I was I really thought you were going to get that moment of the original companion, the Doc's granddaughter, handing over the mantle in a symbolic way to the current iteration of the show. And it would have been such a crowd pleaser if you'd done that during the regeneration with the spoilers in case anyone hasn't gotten that we're doing them yet. But spoilers. Before Jodie, when Jodie turns up, you could have had her there as well. It would have been such a powerful scene. Just why don't you do that? Why?
Because RDT likes to take little bits of elements to hit us with nostalgia and to make us excited about what we're seeing and what the possibility it represents, but then never pays it off.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I feel like you're going to have the hotel manager seems to be, it's obvious, would seem obvious that it could be Susan. But mind you, again, he kind of, I think, put the babies here to make us think Timeless Child, obviously.
I actually have an idea about why Poppy is there. Because I don't think something that happens at the end of this episode or at the end of the season finale, I don't think it was originally intended or anticipated. I think it came up. And so a new storyline had to be added into the existing storyline in order to be able to get us to that point. And we can expand on that a little bit later unless you just want to dive right into it. But
let's keep our powder dry just because there's just so much to get through in this episode. I don't want to, or this two-parter, I don't want to kind of miss out any juicy morsels. But yeah, I thought Susan Twist, I actually felt really bad for the actor. I've seen her in other stuff. She's great. And I just think she was so underused here. And it's like when she had to give it just seems so forced. It's like, I'm only a year old and the doctor saved my life. And it's like, look, they didn't really show that in the episode. And now you're asking us to be invested about her retelling something we never saw. Yeah, that's doing it for me. Like, you've got so much in this episode that there's pointless elements you could have lost and it would have been stronger for it, and spent that time really nailing down your logic points. I think there is just a degree of I think RTD is such a wonderful writer. He is so talented. His new stuff, which he's done outside of Doctor Who, is just as powerful as it's ever been, if not more so. But within Doctor Who, he seems to be just retreading stuff that he's explored before, and he's kind of believed his own hype in the fact that because he played about with the canon a bit, now you just don't need anything to make any logical sense, and it's like just there is a happy medium to be found. God, Jesus, I'll get off my soapbox now. The dead pig fat is ham. I've never heard any Time Lord have a trouble with the concept of meat. Why doesn't she know what meat is? It's weird.
Especially like a scientist.
Yeah. And the Rani was in medieval Earth, so like you think she'd come across some meat at that point.
I found that a bit odd. I thought it was just saying for comedy value, to be honest. I thought that's just a strange sort of line to come out with.
And suddenly Anita Dobson's Rani, I don't get why she's subservient. I thought maybe they were going to do something that the reason why she survived was she visited the Sisters of Khan the way the Doctor did, and forced regeneration, and decided to slightly mask who she was by making herself very affable so she could infiltrate all the companions. Makes perfect sense. Nope, she's just a servant to the new Rani for no apparent. No, it's not like David Tennant's 14th Doctor was subservient to Ncuti in any way. And I know they're not like that, but you give me a reason why anything's happening, please.
I know. Please. Don't make you have to write it. I get it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going around, but we may go around that particular.
Oh no, I don't mean I don't mean you're pounding the same drum. I'm saying I completely agree with you.
No, I'm saying that.
Because I have.
The way I look at it.
Yeah, I see that scene and I'm just like, oh well, maybe it's happening because we know that the Rani is this person with great concepts of grandeur about themselves. So only the Rani would be the one that could be respected. So, but it's like you said, I'm writing it for them, and I don't need that right now. I just want to sit here and watch Doctor Who, for gosh sakes.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, nothing about her performance. I've loved Anita Dobson through all of the series. Both series, I thought she was fantastic, but nothing said Rani to me in her performance at all. But the way that my own headcanon, the way I've made sense of it is, it's kind of a bit like she's maybe the Patrick Troughton in between the Hartnell and the Pertwee. You know, you've got the really staunch, serious doctors, and then in the middle you've got this little mischievous imp. So maybe she's just like, it's kind of like that, but with the Rani version, if that makes sense. So she's still the Rani, just not what you'd expect the Rani to be.
I mean, there was a couple of times when both Ranis were sort of dual speeching an enemy speech, and kind of she joined in, and then you start to feel a bit of Rani come to the surface.
Yeah.
And then they just
yeah.
quelled it and cut her off and then beamed her out. And it's like, she was actually being the Rani. Let her be the Rani. It's Anita bloody Dobson. Now, Will, if you're not familiar, she was in the early EastEnders, and she was the landlady of the Queen Vic, which is the pub in there, which everyone knows about in England. She played Ange Watson. It was Dirty Den, which was the kind of villain of the piece, and she was his wife, and they were always both of them, I think, had affairs, and he was always cheating on her, and he treated her like crap. And she was one of these kind of like she's always remembered for that role. So kind of very much respected and beloved over here. Funny enough, when she dressed as a policewoman, I thought, I'm sure she must have done the bill at some point, which was a police show over here.
Everybody in EastEnders did the bill at some point. Everybody.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's like it was back in the day. The three which you would do in the UK if you're an actor was Doctor Who, EastEnders, and The Bill. That was your triumvirate, and you'd made it as an actor, certainly as a character performer. Anyway, so yeah, she is much beloved in this country, and she's a wonderful actor, and I think she's done a great job with the material she's given. But given I'm so thankful, as much as the other lady who, sorry, I don't know her name, but she was wonderful in the role as well. But I'm so looking forward to having an evil Anita Dobson play the real evil Rani. She will knock out of the park. And it's so nice to have one of the Doctor's foes who has been in a couple of ventures. So we've got that familiarity, but it's one which has been underexplored. And Omega, which gets used here and is still underexplored. So anyway. Sorry, thoughts, guys?
No, it's all right. I'm just like, why did you have to bring it up? Because now I'm just thinking, oh, great. Another terrible CGI monster.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we can jump about with this one because, I mean, to be honest with you, there's so little to say about Omega because he was on the screen for so little.
Mm-hmm.
He was such a brilliant baddie. He was never the mischievous god who's in hiding, who's the original sin evil one. No, he's a nasty bugger. He was never any of that stuff. In the original ones, he was accidentally exiled when he created essentially the vortex and gave the power of time travel to the Time Lords. It was a tragic story. Time Lords didn't hate him, they revered him. It was only the Doctor who discovered he'd been expelled to non-space and that he had entrophied away to nothing. He just exists as willpower. Such a powerful idea for a bad guy, but why change his origins? Because I think the bittersweetness of him, he gave something so wonderful to the Time Lords, and he ended up being exiled and becoming the big bad guy. I think that's such a tragic backstory. I don't know why you just change it to a very samey, always a wrong. And we've had that already.
Yeah, and that monster could have been anyone.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there are Doctor Who fans who've never seen the Three Doctors or Arc of Infinity who are going to watch that and have no real concept of who or what Omega is.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was very... I just don't know what to think, to be honest. I don't understand why somebody who's grown up loving Doctor Who and has been a massive fan of Doctor Who all his life would write that and do that.
Give him the mask back.
I mean, especially since last season, we kind of had more of an exaggerated version of what had been seen before, and this aligned with nothing.
Yeah, and there was I used to have this toy when I was a kid, and it was like it would make noises, and it was like generic alien kind of thing, and it's kind of was purple, but it went up into these kind of bits at the top which looked like Omega's mask, and these ridiculous, like they were very 80s looking sunglasses kind of attached to the bottom bit for your eyes, but you lined up and put it on and you could do a wonderful Omega impression. It even had this little kind of fake jewel in the middle which lit up. I go around pretending to be Omega. Like if you create something of that look but modernize it a bit, like have his mouth accessible so you can get some expression from him, fair enough. Like I could see tweaking it to make it look more modern. But that is such a thing that children, like when Capaldi and Moffat did the sonic sunglasses, so every kid who had a pair of sunglasses has a sonic screwdriver, which didn't cost them all the money in the world, which some of their parents couldn't afford. It was beautiful. And sort of that's what I think Omega can be. And you just make him generic, space goblin, like you guys say.
Yeah, some sort of weird skeleton beast. Like I'd heard rumours that, there was a fake picture going round that was even worse than what was we actually saw, But I was like, oh God, is that really what he's going to do? And as soon as I saw the claw come out of the door, I just thought, oh, here we go. And I groaned. I actually groaned out loud.
To another Sutek, the king of bad anagrams.
Yeah. You know,
I still can't get over that. The fact that the anagram didn't work. Like they had to change a letter out. It's like, that's not fucking anagram anymore then. Sorry. That really incensed me. I still can't get over it. And this just looked like Sutek 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind Sutek as a whole last series. Like, I was very excited when he came back, you know, but with Omega, it's just nothing. It's just it's just nothing. He's just there. He's there to eat the Rani and be a minor threat for 2 minutes, and that's it.
And again, what was the Ronnie's plan? Because if the plan was to use Omega, the essence of Omega, I'm unclear, to build a new Gallifrey, right? Then what was the plan once the door opened, and why didn't the plan work? Just because it's bigger.
Yeah. And I finally got it though. I worked it out. Sorry, I brought up Sutek. It makes perfect sense now. Sutek and Omega bi-generated from the same person, so it all makes sense now. By the way, bi-generation just isn't dramatic. It just like it's pulling yourselves apart, and it's like, it's like the whole point of regeneration is it's that wonderful burst of energy, and then you see a new face.
Yeah.
If you just pulling each other, push a bit like that. Anyway,
I'm glad they kind of got rid of that though. Like in the reality war shoot, he did say like it's not something that'll happen again, sort of thing. So I'm glad they did sort of put a lid on that and say this isn't going to happen every time. Because I think that would been it could be quite annoying. I think it could sort of take away from the regeneration as well.
I was going to say, am I wrong that bi-generation was just something that was a conception because they couldn't get rid of David Tennant again? You know what I mean? It was like he was such a beloved doctor. They couldn't put the audience through that again by introducing the same face on 14. So it's like, well, we have to have a way where he can just go and have a life and everyone can be happy that their favorite character is now just telling stories and having brunch, you know?
And watching the world burn several times in adventures where logically he would have to get involved. So it all makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
Oh, he's off planet at that time. Sorry, Doctor. Like, I mean, I suppose like the conceit is, I've always thought he's on this way to being the caretaker, which a lot of people have postulated. It makes perfect sense. It's one which that's a fine thing to headcanon. We don't need to. You can have that out there, and it kind of works through perfectly, and it suggests itself very nicely. But it's never been established in the show. But that's perfect for headcanon. That is not the episode not making sense. That's where you get,
Who knows?
Yay. I thought it was fun that the Rani used Time Lady. I'm good with some Time Lady, some women using Time Lady, some using Time Lord. That's fine. It's nice. I like the words kind of maintained is all. It's nice. Yeah, it just sounds like and it's like also the suggestion, if everyone uses Time Lord, it's suggesting that Lady is not as good as Lord. Do you see? I sort of like I don't understand the logic. I'm respectful that people do feel like it's not respectful of them to have a different word, like actor and actress. If that's what people want, cool. I just don't understand the logic of it. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. I would love someone to explain to me one day that I got what the idea was. That's all I mean. It's not. I don't mean that insulting. I want to learn more. I want to know why that's preferable, because otherwise you're saying Lady is less good than Lord, which surely isn't that the point that they're. Anyway,
again, it's one of them things that's not really been explained properly, is it? It's just kind of just there, just played around with a little bit, and then.
I mean, I can sort of like theme this to this, but it sort of like makes me think of the whole thing with where RTD said that he doesn't want anyone who's not playing gay characters, which I respect and I understand the thought behind that. But there's a couple of problems with that. One is so you're saying everyone's got to declare, like you had Jodie playing like she's a straight actor. She played a lesbian, like chastened romance, which sort of never happened. You've got David Tennant has sort of been bi. I don't know if he is or not. And I don't know the sexuality of any of these people. I'm not like, outwardly they seem to have presented straight, but like it might just been, I always saw them with couples, partners where they've been. It doesn't mean anything, but I don't know. But and also acting is an act of empathy. I've always thought it's like putting yourself in the headspace of someone else, like who might be different.
Exactly,
And say someone's disabled and gay, which do you have to have both characteristics to play that guy? That guy, girl, person, whatever. It opens up a lot of questions. Again, it's just something I'm interested in. I'm not judging. I want to learn more, and anyone who can school me, please do write in. I'm happy to learn. Anyway, there you go. Sorry, I've gone on from tangent. It was very nice way as well, in some very economical writing of them bringing in the cost of being disabled. This was a lovely light way of addressing a very serious issue and having it right there on Front Street still, of having like the cost of being disabled, and like it costs so much for just this wheelchair would have cost a ton, my spinal bifida meds, but I'm okay. And obviously, as we know, there's a lot of people in the system who aren't okay, who rely on these things, and that seemed really prescient and lightly done to make a very serious big point. Anyone anything on that? Or just agree? Yeah, cool.
It's too heavy of a moment, sir. I'm not commenting.
Yeah. I do like things like that. As I say, like it's RTD covers something so well, and the fact that you address all these issues is so important. I just want him to do it in a way which doesn't give anyone any ammo against the right side of history, if that makes sense. And you got to justify why you're calling someone out. They've got to do something to be called out on. Oh, you got cameo from Rogue, which looked very green screen to me, and I sorry, I just didn't connect with Rogue. I'm really glad to have the Doctor having a romance story. No, I will say, Eliza, it's just because really, I think it's probably because I just don't like period dramas, and it probably switched me off a bit. And he was so stilled and hardly said anything, and that's probably what is good in period dramas to people who love those. I don't, so I think that's why. So I don't think there's anything anyone's done wrong. And he's a great actor. I loved him in Hamilton. I watched the Disney Plus one so many times with his performance as George. I think that one might just be me, but the green screen's on them. I think that looks so fake.
What you vibe with, if everybody has their own characters who they connect with and who they don't connect with, and I think it's just one of those situations. I mean, personally, I love Rogue. Like, I absolutely adored him. And I love the novelization as well. The novelization made me cry.
What did they do
different? To see him again.
What did they put in there? What did they put in that version which kind of got you?
It's the bit at the end. I mean, nobody's read it yet. Spoilers. They just have a little bit at the end where he's in this hell dimension, just waiting for the Doctor, and he's in this little cave, and he doesn't know whether he's going to survive or not. But he's like waiting in hope, and it's more heartbreaking now that we're never going to meet again. Like, it's just
as someone who's a fan of that episode and the novelization, then to ask you, do you feel it was justified from one episode with that character? They basically did the Rose Tyler moment, which was established over many series. And I do mean that as an open question. It sounds like I've loaded that to elicit something, but my feeling was
in the love story. Do you mean?
Yeah, well, like he literally did the and whilst I'm here, I may as well say it, I love you. And he sort of got it out this time a bit more than Rose did. But it seemed like they were trying to conjure up the same moment based on one episode as opposed to a 2-series arc.
I mean,
3 or whatever it was.
I'm a very romantic person, and I'm very easily wooed. So, I mean, for me, that's quite believable. Like, I'd fall in love with a guy in a night if he was dressed like that and dancing with me and romantic, So for me, but I know a lot of people have kind of been a bit sort of against that. So I can see it from both sides. But for me personally, like, I totally fall in love.
I instantly bought it. I was fully into it because it was a situation where we have this new Doctor who is discovering new aspects about himself, and that's obviously his sexuality turns out is one of them. In my mind, the Doctor is asexual. To just there's nothing there. So, but it's okay. You want to take it in that direction? Nobody's paying me to make Doctor Who. That's fine. But when you had Rogue, who was this very kind of not pompous, I guess just very self-confident, and then you have the Doctor who is larger than life, literally, I can see that there would be just a natural attraction. We've all had that moment in our lives where we have seen someone and our breath literally is just taken away. And I'm not meaning figuratively. You just feel as though you have both seen something that completely completes you and that you want to know more about. And that's what that was for me. The fact that it was very heavily green screened when it was called back in this one was very painful. But they even revealed, I think, in Unleashed that they did pull Groff off to a side room while he was shooting that Bridgerton inspired episode. And he recorded that bit. So it was definitely green screen, but it was terribly CGI.
Yeah. I mean, considering their effects have been so spot on this series, I loved the Rani's palace in this episode. I thought it was going to turn out to be a TARDIS. I was kind of disappointed it wasn't her TARDIS because that's what it felt like to me. And the huge clock, it was beautiful. So I thought maybe, like, I was hoping that would maintain after this episode, but whatever. Maybe they wanted to sort of allow for the fact that they might not be able to build that set again without the Disney kind of place to store as well as budget. You've got to create a set and you've also got to maintain it somewhere. And I'm guessing they're going to try and keep the TARDIS set.
I'd imagine that's a lot of money that Bad Wolf spent.
Yeah.
I'm glad the TARDIS didn't blow up.
Yeah. They definitely had Disney money. It was clear on the screen, which is why I think that effect being bad sort of stuck out so much. But no, thank you guys. I do appreciate that perspective. And I sort of like just clocked something in my head. I think the fact they were so still and quiet, and the reason why I like the Doctor, I think the reason why I vibe particularly with Shooty's version of the Doctor, as I did with Matt Smith's, is because they're high energy, high movement, ADHD. Maybe appeals to me. Maybe someone still was a bit challenging for me for an episode. That's probably why I don't like period dramas. They're all kind of very staid and very people are too considered. They take too long. Anyway, tables don't do that. I thought that was a nice touch, and again, that is the best side of the populist in RTD.
But how does Rogue know? Also, does it have to be horribly CGI'd? Because the last time we saw them, they were just slipping into darkness as they're being transmatted away. Couldn't he just as easily been in a black environment? Like just something dark and desolate instead of like literally, oh, hell's flames. Come on now.
I agree. And how did he know that?
How did he know?
Yeah. I didn't think of it the first time. The second time I was like, wait a minute. They don't pick that up at the end.
Which, by the way, it took me, I think, 2 or 3 viewings to even understand why that was relevant. Okay. Again, good writing, bad writing, not sure. Because it's like, okay, so why does this keep happening? So people disbelieve, and it's supposed to be a representation that those are the small little cracks that ordinary people cause with their doubt. And the Ronnie's plan was to enact this massive fracture. So there are all the minor instability, and then the doubt of the the power of the doubt of a Time Lord can thus crack reality because it's so powerful for that disbelief. But do I have to watch it 2.5 times to understand that?
Yeah, they do like hammering the themes home sometimes to the point where it's like, no, I got what you're doing. You don't have to explain it again. But there was something nice in just, it was the economicalness of having a phrase like cups don't do that, and it's them going through the tape. I like the fact that gave that to the Doctor, but I agree with everything else you're saying. It was just a nice representation for an idea.
And just a little insight into my mind too. I see that episode and I see everything that's happening, and I just imagine there's some guy going, yeah, okay, I'm sorry, you need how many yellow mugs?
And then they've got to, when they're doing the scene again, they've got to restock the shelves and get more mugs.
It's
not like they can just put them back together, like get rid of them and put more on and make sure we've got the same amount that were in the last scene and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, and some poor stagehand putting bits of shattered cup back in the exact same position from the next shot because they've changed angle. Some guy's day was ruined with this. That moves us kind of on a bit because it's just after that we get our people taken away by Officer Rani of the police. And the line which the Doctor said as he was being taken away to the police, I just asked questions. might seem relevant to something. I don't know. Let's say someone saying something in a student paper and then being emigrated. I don't know. Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was haunting how well RTD. I think there was a lot of prediction in this of seeing the way things were going, and that if certain things happen a certain way, this is what we end up with.
Eerily.
Yeah, I think he. Yeah, I think this was definitely. I mean, this was Doctor Who years and years, basically.
I was going to say years and years. He predicted a lot of things that sort of.
With Ruth Madeley going between the two as well. So yeah, it definitely felt like another version of that, done very well though, and done very uniquely to the other version he did, which was good as well. The Vindicators were powering the engine for the Rani. I did think why they called the Vindicators. That did stick out to me, but I must admit I never placed what.
That's all the way back in like episode 2, where it's a combination of two names, and and I'm naming it a Vindicator. As he's assembling it.
I mean, I'd forgotten that, but I think even if I'd remember that, I'd go, yeah, but Vindicator, that's something. You don't call it that by accident.
Yeah,
RTD certainly doesn't.
Again, you're starting to get into this RDT pseudoscience that makes no sense. It's like, okay, so wait a second. Because these Vindicators were triangulating this position so the TARDIS could punch through, how is it that they're harnessing all these Vindicators in their places in space-time to get the energy that's needed to sustain the wish? Once again, my eyes gone cross. I don't know how that works. There's a magical thing called RTD science, and that's where it's just like, well, this is what I need it to be, so this is what it was.
Basically, yes. I mean, it all seemed everything was very convenient. I think there was definitely a push to make sure you had two babies, which we could mistaken for being something to do with Susan, Susan's origins, and maybe Susan's mum. That seemed naturally placed for that. Maybe even you do a 2-for-1 with both babies being there of the Timeless Child and that. So you do both of them, and they there is a weird poetry. There would have been there at least of them both being there at the same moment. The Doctor and the Doctor's daughter would have been I would actually really felt they did justice to the Timeless Child arc, which I didn't particularly like the first time round. I just think it's kind of opening up I think Chibnall and what RTD started doing is going through the thing that's cool and not worrying about how it works. It's just, that's a cool concept, so I'm going to chuck that in. It's the loss of it all. When they wrote the whole series going, hey, but how do they get a polar bear on the island? We don't know, but we'll figure it out later. It's like, no, you've got to know why yourself. You've got to know. We're not meant to know, but you do. That's our point. That's how this works.
There was a lot of, especially in the finale, that I feel like it was a writer's room, and there's a bunch of writers walking around, maybe consuming some mind-altering substances, and and then what happens? Oh, then this happens. The guy's like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do that.
Did the pizza arrive yet?
Where are my ankles?
Yeah. No, it's there was a lot of that, and I think it's. I've never bought the argument that a fan can't write the show. Like Moffat, I think, did a good job of it, and like whether or not you liked what he did, it was always kind of ideas from his perspective, and it never felt like he just went. And he might have started with, here's a cool idea, how can I justify it? But he always justified it. Or I think maybe even a lot of the time worked up to an idea. And the way he brought together all the mentions which RTD had done over the series about the Time War and made the moment a thing. And that was just I was there at the moment. And he made the moment an object as opposed to what we'd assumed it was. All that stuff was so cleverly done. Everything was thought out. And we've gone to the upset end of nothing being thought out. It's just like, it's a fan, like it feels almost like a fan is writing it like a fan fiction one. Like there's some fun ones on YouTube, there's some great ones, and it's all done with love. I love them all. No insult to anyone who does that. But in those, you might come up with some fan ideas which maybe don't belong in a TV show. Nothing against them. I think that's a place for more exploring that than when you go on TV, it's got to have a good reason to include something, not it just be cool to see this. We're going to get onto it soon, but like, the Jodie cameo, it was great, but I don't think, kind of because you're about to cross a time up just so I'm here. It's like it almost belonged with a question mark at the end of that line. Yeah, you got the hotel door opens anyway. You get the Doctor flying down on a bit of masonry, which I was actually glad that he didn't do what David Tennant did and just fall through a skylight onto the ground for many miles in the sky, and that didn't trigger his regeneration. I was worried they were going to do that with Shooty. He was going to just land on the bit of the side and just go, I made a wish that didn't happen, so I'm okay.
Squee, come on, man. The RTD should have an alternative name, and that's Deus Ex Machina. I said to all of my friends after the end of Wish World, I said, I just really hope it's not a kind of thing where it kicks in and within the first 5 minutes, that problem's solved, and now we're just moving on to almost practically an entirely different story. And boy, was I unfortunately right.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't even mind the hotel door appearing. I thought that's a nice get the Doctor out of his impending doom thing. That's very Doctor Who. And her being pregnant, I didn't need. Yeah, sure, fine. She's got great.
Well, no, I'm sure that's because the actor was pregnant.
Oh,
so it's
maybe
just like they had to compensate for. But I will say too, just before we get into anything else, that it at least was nice in respect to and for the finale itself. It demonstrated an excellent job of kind of conveying the elements that we've picked up along the entire journey of these 2 seasons. It was an excellent tapestry that was woven together in some respects, and I really liked that. So when that paid off, technically that's also a payoff to what we saw at the end of the special, because Anita gets recruited basically, right, for the hotel.
The only thing I will question,
it makes sense. It does make sense.
No, I agree. I just the only one I felt was a little forced, because I did like the fact that they organically brought in aspects from his time as the Doctor without them all being central to the plot. So, like previously, RTD had just brought in every companion, and then they had a massive everyone gets to do a button on the TARDIS, and I'm glad he didn't do that again, because that I actually enjoyed it when he did that one time. And you even got one bit where Camille Couture's flicking a button as Jackie Tyler, and she looks at the screen. I think I think it was maybe meant to be an outtake, but it's I don't know, it's sort of charming. It's sort of fourth wall breaking, but they cut away just quick enough you can say, oh, she was just looking over her shoulder at the Doctor.
Well, it's Martha who does that, isn't it? It's Martha. She looks at the camera and then she just a little smile at the camera,
right.
like a cheeky little smile. It's really quite cute.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's like they did this with the end of the Connors, the spin-off from Roseanne, which they recently did, and you had the characters essentially, they had a very thin justification why everyone was walking off and everyone was emotional, but you could tell it was them just reacting their emotions at saying goodbye to these characters they played for so long to the audience. And you even have Dan on his end at the end on the sofa. It really showed me up, actually. I haven't been a fan of that show growing up. And he just paused for a minute, picks up his beer, has a chug, then walks off stage. That's Dan Connor's goodbye. That's who he is. That's he is stoic. It just really fit. It hit all the buttons, and just those kind of moments are lovely. So I don't mind that they did it before. I'm just saying it's nice he didn't just repeat it, because some themes he has repeated time and again, and they do look like the same thing. Although Joy to the World did seem a bit cheesy right at the end. It's like, I'm not going to regenerate alone, because the star, remember, she was in that episode too. That was too rushed to be anything.
Yeah. It was just sort of, I felt like that was just shoehorned in a little bit, maybe.
Yeah,
and it worked. It worked for what it needed to do.
I mean, Claire Coughlin? Oh, no, Nicola Coughlin, who's in Dairy Girls, who was in that episode. I mean, I already thought she got short shrift with the amount she was in the episode, given that they advertised the whole thing her being in there, especially with her Bridgerton success as well.
Yeah.
And then she's in it for about 5 minutes of the episode, and she probably had about as much time as the star on stage now with this reprise as she did as the actual character that she played.
Feels that way.
Anyway, sorry, I've tensioned it up. Ronnie takes Christmas off. No reason why she would. She doesn't anyway. Fine. The hotel lady explored the Doctor's past, and they chose to use the episode for Pertwee, given how many times he got tied up as a doctor, and they chose one from the colorized episode, which looks really like it. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad we've got that even, but it like looks really janky and high def. Why would you pick that one?
I know they filmed a special little sequence with a Dalek as well, didn't they? When
Oh
she
yeah, there
first
was
said the Dalek that goes past, they got some fans together and just recorded a special little
I
thing
didn't know
just
it
to
was
bring it
fans.
together.
Oh, that's sweet. No, because I did think all those flashes were great, and I love any kind of moment of like, let's show you the other Doctor. Like, I'm still a sucker for that. Again, there's certain things I will become a child if you show me in a Doctor Who episode. I don't particularly need a justification for that because there doesn't need to be one. You're just showing the past of the character we're watching. You're reminding us of everyone he, she, they have been. It's beautiful. That's perfect. So yeah, the fact they threw that in was great. Just a weird choice of clip. I don't know why you do that. Shooty goes from pinstripe suit to pinstripe skirt. Very nice bit of business. I love that. I must say that I love the dress and leather jacket he wore in the first Christmas special. That for me was the one. I kind of I want that one to be reprised just because I think it's one of his best outfits. I don't know, the pinstripe skirt just didn't do it for me, and he looks so immaculate in that pinstripe suit.
Oh, he did. Oh god, yeah, with the bowler hat and everything, he nailed it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, pinstripe skirt. You can put that guy in a bin bag; he will look great. But I don't think he's doing more the work than that dress is. That's what I'm saying. Everything else, he was just stunning and man. Like I kind of hope with the new Doctor they do go towards the same outfit each week because I kind of miss that element. And that also makes it exclusive to Shooty that he was a fashionista, which is perfect to his Doctor. So it'd also be thematically good to not have the next Doctor doing that. But I get the feeling they probably will want to now. I get the feeling that's probably gone as an element, if I had to guess. Maybe a future Doctor might bring it back, but for now, I think maybe. Thoughts?
I think the wardrobe department would want to break on the budget.
Yeah, I think it depends on the cast as well, and sort of what they feel comfortable in, and things like that. Because I think, like you say, I think they probably had Shooty wearing lots of different outfits because it was Shooty.
Yeah, well, apparently according to him in interviews, they told him that, and he was just really excited for it. And they probably did pick that because it is him. I mean, I still don't think it's a coincidence. But apparently it wasn't him motivated because that's what I would assume as well. But he said no. But he loved doing it, obviously, and it was great for his character. I just think it would be nice that he was the one who dressed up and all the other ones had their iconic look because, I mean, Jesus, I just bought a new outfit to wear on stage. I put the photos up online now. And it was like this 3-piece green suit that I wear on stage. I'm going to wear on stage here and after. And that was kind of not only because a lot of the acts I'd see, which kind of get booked for a lot of events, have a kind of one outfit they wear. They're kind of recognized by that. There's a guy called Professor Elemental, who I'm actually working with. We're doing a charity single for Squee Fest this year, which is going to be coming soon. And he's come and joined us on that. And he's always in this like pith helmet and explorer's outfit. There's this friend of mine, Madam Misfit, who's also on the song, and she wears this kind of gold jumpsuit she wears a lot. Like there's certain looks which people go for on stage and get recognized by, but my original place for that is Doctor Who and those outfits, that silhouette where like RTD even talked about it when he brought the Doctor back. There was a signature look, and I am so influenced by the Doctor and by his looks and by his cravats and pocket square and like walking sticks and all these kind of little things. You get bow ties, all this stuff you can throw in, all these accoutrements, little pocket watch. And you'll see in these photos, I've got a pocket watch with me. I've got this little pipe, which was my dad's, which I'm playing around with.
Oh,
that comes from Doctor Who. So like, I would be sad to see that go. But I'd understand. But yeah, I hope it's not gone for good. But I love that Shooty didn't do that.
Yeah. Have your cake and eat it kind of thing.
Yeah. We don't need to get rid of everything though, I feel. So yeah, unit remembers, we get Rosie back, which is very nice. Lovely to see her again. Weird wheelchair flames I thought did look cheesy, and I'd love to see the sides of how they went. I'd rather like sort of fly off thing would have looked less cheesy and would have still done the same job. Like the fact she's got a flying
They did
wheelchair.
it with
Why not?
Bessie, didn't
Go
they?
it taking off.
Yeah, it's the same as what they did with Bessie in Battlefield, isn't it?
Yeah, and let's
When they got
look
to
how
speed
that
up
ages.
and then, yeah, it's like, well,
You basically speed up the film. It's just,
yeah.
Anyway, I could have done without that. I mean, again, you can make it gadget friendly, like the wheelchair do all this fantastic stuff, but don't do Back to the Future flames.
Mm-hmm.
Mel rides into the office on a motorbike because it looks cool.
But I'm driving in, I come up to the building, and now they're at the top of the building. So does she then like pull into a cargo elevator and ride all the way up? And then instead of just parking it and walking in, I want to dramatically ride in? Or did she have some type of teleportation?
Got rockets. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it's got rockets on it or something.
No,
It's Russell T Davies.
I want to see the long cut of her just like running up right in the building, and then just cuts to her in the lift going up, going do 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 do.
That would have been quite a funny scene, to be fair.
And then she goes out, right, gotta make her look cool.
Well, maybe she were up the side of the building like 11 did. Who knows?
I mean, I love.
I forgot about that.
I love the fact they've made Mel the computer expert she was meant to be in the original, and they never explored. That's really nice. I don't need her to be a secret agent as well. Make her the tech person. That's cool enough. Science is cool. Like, I hate when they sort of have to add other things to make science cool. Science itself is the cool thing. And I learned so much from Doctor Who, from concepts like pi, which I brought in the Five Doctors. I learned that literally because I was curious about Doctor Who. So I understand it or know any digits, but like I learned the concept from Doctor Who at least.
Yeah.
And I like
know what pi was.
Yeah. So anyway, we move swiftly forward. Rani and Mel showdown. It's nice they brought in the fact that they knew each other.
It was a nice scene. It was a nice little moment.
Oh, we got a comment. Mel also suddenly has a massive perm when she takes her helmet off, even though 2 minutes before her hair was flat and tied back, just enough time to hit the hair salon before saving the world. Now, this is one of the few ones. I'm sorry, mate, but double O inside. Thank you very much for your comment. I think it's one which I can justify, because if they're in a wish and then reality's breaking through, maybe she had her hair in that way in reality. And the spell, like, that's one I sort of think you can just allow to be not said. I kind of get.
Well, maybe she was just driving so fast.
Yeah, we'll go with that as well. Yeah, but it's like I believe that she had that hair in the real world, and the guy wanted to make her so drab and normal because that's how he sees women's subservient role. That kind of works in without. Like, I don't need a bit of dialogue to interrupt the scene for that. Whereas I want dialogue on the bigger points, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So Flip DNA made a biological sidestep. Sure, Ronnie, why not? We've abandoned science at this stage anyway. And apparently that means that they avoid that. I do like the idea that the Time Lords are sterile now. Well, those two, they sort of made it sound almost as if to begin with, the race was sterile always, or that was what they were trying to back engineer.
It going that way.
Because they said Time Lords. It's like, what, you two? Like, just say us. Like, why would you say the Time Lords? It was a weird choice of language, was all. But fine, they're now sterile. I kind of could buy that. I like the thing they've introduced, the idea that whatever the Master did to destroy Gallifrey, and it's not RTD's fault, that wasn't explored because that was Chibbers, but we never saw why or what. Like, it sort of feels in a little something of it that he had a biological weapon which eradicated them and stopped any more producing. I think that seems very Master like. It at least gives us something from that, whereas it was just like the Master turns up and goes, oh, by the way, killed everyone. Sorry, what? You just did that off screen? Because that's not something exciting to see.
Yeah, I was very
underwhelmed. Yeah, I mean, if the Master could always do that, why didn't he do it long ago when he's countless times tried to destroy the Time Lords? If he could do it that easily, you basically made destroying the Time Lords easy, and you're doing it for the second time, which always drives me nuts that they copied. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Got the Zero Room. I really like that. brought back from
That was a cute
Castrovalva
idea.
from the Fifth Doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted it to sort of look like the original one, like the 80s TARDIS would have been a nice touch, but can't have everything. That's fine. Make it look like
I
a.
did like the 70s style triangular pattern though. That it kind of reminded me of the patterns that you see in all the 70s sci-fi shows like Doctor Who and Blake Seven and whatnot. You that kind of vibe. So it felt a little bit retro, just
Yeah,
not
and
80s retro.
they did say the master. Sorry, not the master. Sorry, Season Twist built it, so it does make sense. It shouldn't look exactly the same. I want a reason to see that Zero Room. Cannons on the unit building are quite fun, but I thought the steering wheel just looked ridiculous.
Yeah,
Avast matey.
Yeah, why the fuck?
the way it smashed all the windows when it moved, like they've obviously not thought it through. Like if it's going to move, you'd make it a bit more stable. Like it destroyed half the building when it swung round. And just, I thought that whole scene went on a bit too long as well. Like the bone monsters weren't a threat; they're just shooting monsters with no real.
I have to tell you, I completely share your. I completely agree with that because when I watched this episode yesterday, I watched it in the one of the worst situations possible because my daughter, my 10-year-old daughter, is in competitive dance, so she was at a competition, and I'm like, but Doctor Who. So I brought my my iPad Pro, and I'm literally sitting in an auditorium trying to mute out loud music while I'm watching this. And then when my daughter would be on stage, I would have to pause. So I was very aware of the timeline of this episode. It was going on as I'm trying to get through it and be present for my child as well. And I'm like, we really need to be fighting these things? Was this even an element we really needed other than somebody wanted to have guns and pivots on the building?
That's the thing. Do less and do it better. Like, I mean, the Indigo device as well, which is nice. Again, I don't mind when they mention something and explain which episode it's from. It's just left there for you to piece together that it's from Martha Jones. Although they go, it's like, just whatever you do, don't press the yellow button. What? Because it moves you a couple of paces to the right? Why is she giving that like a grave warning?
Yeah.
I mean, I would have been fun if they'd gone, it's like, don't use that device. Why? It's like, it's just kind of pointless. They press it and they just move 2 steps to the right. It becomes a joke and then it's used seriously to save her. That would have been a nice way of doing that, but she gives it like it's a grave warning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just like a child, don't press that button. What?
Yeah. But anyway, it does later become very useful. I like the thing with Conrad and that the way like Ruby killed him with kindness. She literally killed the evil version of the person he was with kindness so that he could be the better person. As such,
I do wish he'd have been eaten instead of the Rani though. Like that would have been more satisfying to me.
Yeah, maybe so. But yeah,
I did like the line as well when Ruby said, "Oh, can I punch him?" and Kate just says, "Yeah."
Yeah, that was nice. Yeah, and it's really nice the fact that they had when they did kill off one version of the Rani, the other version of the Rani gave a little nod to another BBC classic. It's like the two Ronnies being a TV show over here, where the catchphrase was, "It's good night from me, it's good night from him."
I love that.
So that's hence her last word.
The way she delivered the line as well was just bang on.
Yeah, it was really like
right over my head.
Yeah,
right over my head.
One of them says it's good night from me, and the other one says, and it's good night from him. The joke being they both saying good night from the same person. Yeah, so there you go. There's your Britsplained thing along with the EastEnders thing.
That's why I come here.
There you go. So there's some really nice little throw-ins like that. My little Dr. Omega says, which is just weird because he never called him that. Fine. Yeah. Well, let's just get past Omega because we've already covered him. Dr. Wynn's baby is finally adopted. One of the babies is adopted by Ruby's mum. That's nice. I feel like she is the mum of any abandoned, abandoned babies whose history doesn't make any sense. So that's how.
Yeah, and that kind of fits. It does fit, and it ties back into Ruby's story. It does make sense.
I think the way RTD used the foundling idea for the Doctor and mirroring that with the companion is very nice. That was always something which fit very well, I thought, and gave more people the ability to see themselves in the Doctor. So the first Black Doctor, the first gay Doctor, the first adopted Doctor, like who had that as center of their identity. And I just love it anytime, like, when I see neurodivergent storylines particularly done well in shows and representation done well, I love it. You get other shows a lot in, like Grey's Anatomy is a good example, and The Conners actually, where they have one episode, the person finds out they've got it. In Grey's Anatomy is outed essentially by another doctor who just assumes that he knows he's got it, which if you had it, you'd never do. But anyway, you know how painful that is. That's like outing in any situation. It's not okay. Yeah. He just goes, oh, sorry, I just assumed you knew. Okay. And then he gets on the meds and it's never mentioned again. Everyone's like, and he did have a moment where he goes like, but why did no one catch it? Like all these brilliant doctors in my family, they didn't catch it. It was like a nice moment and all. And I recognized that moment of why didn't people catch it? But then never mentioned again. It's like, we're not a fucking episode long plot point. We're people who exist in the world. So when you get good representation in someone who brings you to a character you love, I know how important that is. And I've always got to identify with the Doctor because I think he is a little bit neurodivergent anyway, just in his general character. I think the 11th Doctor was an avatar for ADHD, the 12th for autism, in the way that his companion sort of had to explain talking to the other humans to him. And that feels like an experience not only I've had, but I know friends who've had, with people explaining how the neurotypical world works. And so that was very real to me. So I love any opportunity when you've got for more people to see themselves in the Doctor. So I wouldn't generally say that about 15, because I think he's been amazing. He brought new stuff to the role and all the best points from the past of Doctor Who, and he told stories that only that Doctor could tell.
Yeah.
So we go towards the end of the episode. I like the kind of symbology of like when only Ruby remembers the baby and they're passing the blanket back and folding it and it becomes small.
That was a very powerful scene. Yeah.
Such a good concept.
Scene. Took a few seconds for me to realise what was going on, then I noticed and I thought, oh, this is working up. So I thought that moment was good. That was one of the moments in that very long, extended 20 minutes after the story had ended that I actually liked.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was a bit overly long because I think that goodbye with Belinda should have happened before. Like you should have had, I mean, I do miss the regeneration being, you're dying, you've only got enough time to say goodbye to those people around you, those people who you love who've gone with you on the journey. Maybe during your regeneration, you might see some familiar faces bobbing in little head bubbles around you, but generally you got like a couple of minutes to say something powerful to say goodbye, and I missed that. They sort of had their cake and ate it too with Matt Smith, where they had the big regeneration on the clock tower, then they had the intimate regeneration, and he snap regenerated into Capaldi, which was a nice way of grabbing the audience by the throat. But I just feel like they've got all day on these bloody things now.
They do stretch on forever, don't they? Even Jodie Whittaker's kind of lasted. She had time to eat ice cream.
And hang about. It's amazing that this monumental change is something that they can just, like hold off. But I think the thing that I did like is that it kind of remained consistent, that there are, I'm not sure if we saw it with Jodie regenerating from Peter, but if we did, it's like anytime they defer the regeneration, there are consequences, because that is energy that they're bottling up that's not supposed to be bottled. Because if you think about it, when 10 went to 11, the console room was destroyed.
Literally, the TARDIS just exploded.
Yeah, and that's kind of
Peter Davison turned into Colin Baker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's why I thought the 14th Doctor, played by David Tennant, was the first sensible regenerating Doctor we've seen yet in the series. He parked the TARDIS, got out, made sure everything was safe. You're not hurtling through time space in a time space machine, which could send you anywhere, and you're about to unleash power into it, which will cripple it. Why would you start the engines if that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Because that's how you came in, and you want to pay the pain forward.
Yeah, basically.
No, I mean that's and by the way, not to relitigate history, but I always was sort of insulted in a way that Peter Capaldi's regeneration went out, essentially not knowing at the time, but after the fact, he's mansplaining things for the next Doctor. And then you next see the superior intellect of the female mind at work by parking the TARDIS, getting out, being sensible about the regeneration. You know what I mean?
I love that. That's really great. Still annoys me though. I think you could have shown David Tennant in the outfit of the previous Doctor. If you're not like, I know that RTD's justification was he didn't want to see a well, again, he was particularly picking up on a male, certainly outwardly straight Doctor David Tennant in women's clothing and what the press would do, which is really interesting because now he's got a Doctor who's worn dresses, which I think is the right thing to do. Just face it head on. If someone's a dickhead about it, we don't pander to the bullies. We don't change ourselves to fit them. It's like when terms are changed because they get co-opted by bullies. The new term you pick will just be co-opted again. Like moving to see the bullies never works. Like I think people have learned that. I hope they have in recent years and recent days. But yeah, it's yeah.
Sorry, I love seeing the Doctor in the old Doctor's clothes. I love it.
Yeah, that's part of the generation experience.
I mean, especially considering when Jodie left, she came into a full suit.
Yeah.
Right? So
I love how it looks.
And let's be honest. Whittaker's outfit is probably the most androgynous of the outfits we've ever seen. So it's not like you could directly tell he's regenerating into what we're loosely calling here women's clothing. It's not the same. I mean, she wore trousers and a t-shirt and a raincoat. Come on now.
Yeah, I don't like the clothes magically appearing from nowhere. There was even a kind of, they wrote it into one of the Target novels of the first regeneration. So Hartnell's got a cloak. When you see Troughton sit up, cloak's gone. They did it, and they even wore his own trousers. Like they didn't like match the outfit at all, basically. But they had it in the novelization that his cloak burnt off with the regenerational energy. And actually I like your theory because I always thought it's like the Doctors used to have to at the beginning go back to the TARDIS to regenerate. That's even mentioned. And it's like I like the idea that over the years they got careless, so they were just regenerating anywhere all over the shop. They didn't worry about getting back to the TARDIS, and now it's gone back to the TARDIS and they're exploding. It's so yours is the third evolution. I like the idea what you were saying about like they it's because they're penting it up, that's why the energy explodes. But they've gone back to the old protocol of going into the TARDIS.
Yeah, they're shaking up the bottle. Well, even though getting into it now, first of all, I just have to ask, how astonished were you both for this regeneration to happen? Because
shall we do Jodie first before we get to regeneration?
Oh, I forgot about. Yeah,
we will go to that.
We've spoken so much about her. I thought we already addressed it.
Oh God, yeah, of course we didn't. But yeah, I just want to quickly say I love the idea of like one life's missing and that's what matters to the Doctor. That's such Doctor Who concept. That was lovely. But yeah, we go on to Jodie guest appearing. I thought I always find it really interesting when another writer and showrunner writes for a character from another era. So when David Tennant was written for by Moffat, even though he'd written some episodes for him, it felt like a particularly Moffat telling of the 10th Doctor in the Day of the Doctor. And I like the fact that he sort of took the piss a little bit about the hero kind of thing of going, it's like, I'm a hero, I'm the last of the Time Lord, and you're a rabbit. You know, it was a nice little, they could play about with that. Yeah, and that was very Moffat to make a joke out of something, which is like something big like that. That was very nice. And here I actually really like the way Jodie was written. I thought it was some great ideas for the character. So a great actress, but I thought the writing was lacking sometimes. I thought the fact that she was awkward and she let the awkwardness be to the point whereby she couldn't then console Yaz when Yaz was having a difficult moment, saying it's like, oh, I'm a bit socially awkward, and walked away. And then Graham sort of basically took the Doctor role, and that was such a sellout to the first female Doctor. I really hated a lot of that stuff. I hate that you had the old white guy became the de facto Doctor when you got the fucking Doctor there, and it's the first female Doctor. There were so many bits I had problems. I felt here it felt more flowing. It was the same characterizations from Jodie, but the dialogue felt sharper. It felt more like what I wanted that character to be, was my personal thought. And I thought she did a blind out. I think there was no real, they didn't write him very well. It's like, oh, you're sort of going to cause a time thing, so ta-da. And they even said, and we will bring back to this in a minute when we get onto the regeneration. Oh, it's usually that other guy. He just gets everywhere.
He keeps
You're
turning
referring
up.
to the fact that RTD loves to go back to the same cast from the original when he first came back. I wonder if that'll come up again. Anyway, guys, your thoughts?
I mean, I really enjoyed Jodie's little scene.
Yeah.
I'd heard a rumor that she was going to be in it, but I just thought, oh, whatever. Like the rumors flying about all over the place. It didn't have any real purpose. I have heard. I think you were saying as well earlier, Will, that there were a lot of rewrites and things. And someone did suggest that that scene was potentially written for Susan, and for whatever reason, it didn't happen, which is why they got Jodie. And I don't know how true that is. That might just be hearsay. But I thought it was a very nice scene, and I liked that it gave her sort of the sort of, even though she's the younger doctor, it gave her the elder statesman kind of role, and she was able to sort of be the one who the other doctor looks up to in a sense. And I kind of feel it was like a passing over the baton in a way, 'cause even though David Tennant was in between them, he was kind of like an in-between kind of doctor. She was like the doctor. And I just kind of like the idea that it's her handing over to him and then sort of sending him on his way to whatever happens next. And to be honest, like the scene, she didn't need to be there. There was no reason for it, but I liked it. And it cheered me up after all the dross that had just happened before. You know,
Before we go to
steeled me for what came next.
Before we go to Will, just very quickly, I thought it was thematically really good the way you kind of brought in who the 15th Doctor had been, and the fact that I don't say stuff like that, that's what you got me for. That was beautiful. It said something about what her character as Doctor was like and what his is like and what he brought to the role. I thought thematically that was so strong. Sorry, Will.
It's directly acknowledging the fact that they do change. So people moaning about Shooty's Doctor crying and this, that, and the other. That scene acknowledged the fact that although they're the same person, they move on, they change, they are different people. Some doctors will do things other doctors won't. And it kind of acknowledged that head on, which I really liked.
Yeah.
We're all different people at different points in our lives, and that's okay. Sorry. 11's regeneration is probably one of the finest written pre-regeneration speeches ever. And it will, first of all I'm thinking about it. All I'm doing is thinking about it. Having quoted a little bit, I've got goosebumps now because just remembering it emotionally connects me to that moment again.
Well, let me get you again then. 11th hour's over now. The clock is striking 12.
Right? Much like you said, Squee, realistically speaking, this reaffirmed that Whittaker truly was an amazing doctor who had poor writers. It really did, because she was just as endearing, but like you said, the dialogue was crisper and her performance here was better. And that's what happens, because acting is a series of choices, right? And what you're given is what you then have to decide on. So she really took it in wonderful ways. I never butted up against it happening, and I kind of just saw it as the fact that after we see what happens next, because I thought the moment Whittaker showed up, the minute I saw Jodie's face, I'm like, oh, we've got two doctors. Now they're going to sort it out. And what seems to be happening isn't going to happen. You know,
I was kind of hoping there was going to be a end with them going off and we'd get like a little spin-off series. And I'd have loved that.
Oh, God, that would be great.
Right? I thought there was something there, something. So I never butted up against it because, you know, we've seen other weird things. I mean, at the point where you got a Fez flying through a portal, you got to accept anything in the show. And so I was okay with it. It never represented a problem to me. For me, it was just wonderful because I loved seeing her again. And that was just the deliveries that she had were amazing, like including, you know, and he says, you're here to stop me. And she's like, nah, that wouldn't have worked anyway. Meaning, you know, she wouldn't have been able to stop him. And also just the one moment where she stops and becomes the voice of the entire audience since the moment this man showed up on the scene. It's just like, your face is beautiful. Look at you. I'm like, yeah, that's what we've been saying. We've all been there. So I just liked it. And after we see that what truly does happen, I liked it because even though there was the whole speech of, you know, like being with Joy, there was someone there to kind of help him along, the way.
Yeah.
And as well as it became another Deus Machina thing where it, she might have said just the right little thing where he made an adjustment to the semi-macro, whatever the heck it was, and that's why it actually worked, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
and you can even justify the TARDIS, like the TARDIS wouldn't be beyond bringing a past version of the Doctor to help out the current one to make sure the Doctor lives, because the TARDIS will always protect the Doctor, and using the Doctor to do that, it's very TARDIS like. I mean, again, headcanon, I can justify it 5 words past Tuesday to a very satisfying place. I just wish they had put that in. It would be nice just say that. Just say the TARDIS sent me here. I don't know why, but I've just got this knowledge in my head. TARDIS knew I had to be here. They have the wonderful bit of dialogue. She flicks the switch and go, that's why. You can tie it in so easily with one line. That's why it's annoying when they don't. And I thought, like, even the bit with the 13th Doctor and talking about Yaz was really nice. And I really thought it was forced in the show. I'm sorry, but like previously, I hadn't felt anything from them. Watching back the earlier episodes, I don't see anything which suggests relationship. It's just there suddenly. And it really annoys me because, again, it's the Doctor having the only situation ever possible where the Doctor can have a lesbian relationship, and they undersold it. And that's what annoyed me, not being there, the fact that it wasn't there more. I wanted some feeling of like, oh, of course, all that stuff, them like chasingly just scraping each other's hand by accident and that little look, and it suddenly all falls into place. I don't mind that moment. And don't get me wrong, there's some people out there I know who feel the opposite. They feel like it was always suggested. I don't see it like in the same way I have other romances which were like built up. Like they certainly didn't do it to the extent they did with Billy Piper and the Doctor, Rose and the Doctor.
See, for me, I actually really liked the relationship with the Doctor and Yaz because of how undersold it was, and like how Rose got on my nerves. Like I liked her with Eccleston, and then when David Tennant came on, she just got on my nerves. And I think even Stephen Moffat at one point said she was too clingy, and it became too much about, and oh, lovey, let's talk about mortgages while we're in Satan's pit and the devil's just around the corner, and it just got on my nerves so much. And I kind of wanted to move away from that, but with Yaz and the Doctor, it was there enough, but not too much that overpowered it, if that makes sense.
No, fair play.
Like you, Will, I kind of like the idea of the Doctor being asexual, which is why I love Peter Capaldi's Doctor, because he was just so sort of not into that. But
Capaldi...
but when it's done, like with Rogue as well, when it's sort of done in a certain way, I like it. When it's not too in your face, when it's too in your face, it gets on my nerves.
Yeah, my only thing about their relationship, if there was one to be perceived, is that, and I don't know anything of anyone, but it felt like a man writing for what they think that type of relationship may gradually, slowly move towards.
I do. And I sort of think I completely love that read on it, Eliza. Actually, it's really I love it when someone's got a different read to me, and then I can watch back the show and I sort of can see that. It doesn't always change how I see it, but it's kind of interesting to see it through someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
But I guess it was because, again, it's like when you're doing the first something, you have to tread carefully before you tread on people's dreams, to quote an old poem. When you've got the first Black Doctor, having that scene where he wailed on that guy, and all I could think of is like the last episode where he was using the hollow fist basically to torture the guy. Before this two-parter. I did think it's like, given that Black people are painted in the media sometimes as thugs, Black males especially, to have the first Doctor to do that being the first Black Doctor, and maybe I'm overthinking things, but it came into my head. I don't think that's like, and I never wanted the Doctor to be that anyway. And you make the first Black Doctor be that. You make the first female Doctor sort of to be a sidekick to Graham. I just think symbols matter, and you make the first lesbian relationship for the Doctor be the most chastened it could be, so it isn't really weaved in before. That's why I think that isn't the one I would have chosen to be that. Like you say, I think, Rose, and it did get too much eventually. It's the whole will they, won't they between Clark Kent and Superman, and like the weird love triangle between two people. It's beautiful, but at some point when you're doing it episodically on a Saturday morning, like a Saturday tea time with Dean Cain, you've eventually got to have them get together. Otherwise, it'll just become a Ross and Rachel, and you've got to move the relationship forward at some point, as they did with Ross and Rachel, actually. Yeah, so I guess that's my problem. Like, symbols matter when you're doing the first of someone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's nice to have another read. So we do get to say again.
That does make sense. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, we go to the regeneration. It is bringing back Billy, which is like, again, can't we move the show forward to something new? Nothing against Billy Piper, and I'm sure she'll do something different with the role. But I think a new Doctor's a time to bring energy that has never been experienced in the show.
This is something I'm amazed I picked up on watching the episode in the manner that I did. Well, first of all, my initial reaction was, first of all, I think we were all David Tennant at that point. We're just like, what? But the other thing that I instantly clocked in on, because I'm wondering if there's going to be like a skip credits thing on Disney Plus for me to tell me about what might be happening next, or to plug something. And I saw, Ncuti Gatwa as the Doctor, Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor, and then the key thing is and introducing Billy Piper.
Yes.
End of sentence. So,
yes. As the Doctor,
and
many have picked up on this. Yeah.
But the problematic thing is, like, literally, we just saw this 2 seasons ago. We just went through this. It's literally just like, okay, well, you know what? The shirt's not quite dirty. Let's just shake it off out of the bin and put it on instead of washing it and coming up with a nice clean thing. So that was the first thing I butted up against. And after that, it's like, you just feel like I'm being made to consume this because it's nostalgia bait. That's the only reason why it's here, or to get us talking. I can see that there could be logical connections to somehow how this happens. When you look at the fact that Billy Piper played Rose, who exposed herself to the heart of the TARDIS and thus the time vortex, and he's blasting all this regeneration energy into the heart of the TARDIS, which is connected to the time vortex. You can see how there might be some RTD reasoning about what may have happened here, which, of course, no idea what that is. Absolutely no clue.
There's definitely going to be Bad Wolf involved. That's I would be willing to place a bet on the fact that Bad Wolf comes up, and this is going to be tied back to that, because that would actually close a bit of a loop, because there's no reason why Bad Wolf was the thing that she clinged on to. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy. So because she thinks of Bad Wolf at the end, she sees it at the beginning because she moves it back through time. So, but there's no reason for it to be Bad Wolf per se. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Sutek was there, of course, because he's everywhere on all the Doctor's adventures after Tom Baker.
So what was Sutek doing when 73 yards happened and the TARDIS was just never mind.
Is there Sutek on Tennant's TARDIS? That's the other one.
Yeah. So Sutek is just anyway. I shouldn't. But again, I can't write a Doctor Who, and I can't make one. So
I think
accept it and move on.
I wouldn't be surprised if, mind you, like the first was oh yes please or something like that. Billy says. So I don't know. It sounds as if they're going to say it's the Doctor in some aspect. I think he's got, like you say, some whammy from the TARDIS, from the Bad Wolf energy left in there. I think that's going to be where we're going to go next. Your thoughts, Eliza?
I just thought it was crap. It ruined the whole episode for me. I'd heard rumours that she was going to come back. And I did say, like, if she's the Doctor, then I'm just going to stop watching. I mean, nothing against Billy Piper. I didn't hate Rose to start with, but she just got on my nerves, and I just think it's disappearing up its own arse. Like,
yes,
Doctor Who always needs to move forward. Had the first Black Gay Doctor, progressive, moving it forward, and then all of a sudden we've just got Rose back again for no apparent reason. It worked with David Tennant. I loved him as the 14th Doctor. I preferred him as the 14th Doctor to the 10th, actually. But there's no reason for this. Like, if it had faded to black, fine. But we've got her now, and I'm just like, what's going to happen? And I'm just not excited about it at all. I just think it's going to annoy me. Like, I just think that the show's just took a massive backward step all of a sudden, and they just killed, like, it. my opinion of the episode would have been a lot stronger if that scene hadn't happened. Like, as soon as I saw her face, that was it for me. I'm just like, no, no
I,
thanks.
I just like to
I
ask.
hope she has a reunion. I hope we get a retelling of the end of the Stolen Earth, where she sees David Tennant and they're running towards each other, and then she gets shot by a Dalek and regenerates. That'd be fine. Do that. But I don't care. I've had enough of Rose. They keep bringing her back. There's so many other
Yeah.
companions. Bring Clara back. Bring Jamie back, for God's sake. Like, give me
Yeah.
Jamie one more time. Like, just, oh, yeah, just too much for me.
Hey, I
I've
see
been
Fraser
watching.
Hines at cons quite a lot, actually. So he's out
Me
there.
too.
He's available. He'd be up for it.
I'm seeing him again in Utopia in a few
Oh,
weeks. I'm very excited. It's a very big crush of mine.
Yeah, I got to interview him and chat to him a little bit. It was just such a lovely guy. Yeah, he'd be up for it. He'd do it.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, this strictly happened because I'm guessing there's uncertainty in Bad Wolf Productions being able to rely on that sweet Disney Plus money. So
Yeah.
they're trying to generate something that sparks more interest and back viewing on the app in order to do that. It's the only reason why I could see it. Again, remember, AirPods, iPad, middle of this place. And mind you, I was concerned the minute a regeneration was happening. I was concerned because there have been many times I have been brought to tears during a regeneration. And so when this is happening, first I'm looking around because I'm like, if I cry, am I okay? Is anyone looking? And then it happens, and I like look around because I'm trying to find anybody to go. Did you just see that? What the hell was that? And nobody was there. So I was a man alone on an island of suffering at that point.
No, I tell you,
I was suffering with you. Trust me.
No, there's three things which came to me. One was the fact that it was nice that it was generally kept. See, I didn't know for sure this was going to happen. Although one of the other things was when it started happening, like there was a voice in my head going, "You knew this. Come on!" Like he shot 2 series back to back. He is about to become a huge star in Hollywood. He's already done the Barbie movie. They probably knew this was on its way, his success. He just finished doing Sex Education, which was huge for him. Of course, he was going to do these series. Like you should have, like you knew this really. Like I think I did somewhere. I try to convince myself that RTD wasn't overselling in every interview, going, "Oh, if I had my way, he'd be the Doctor forever." Like he said that too often for it not to stick out that he's trying to cover up the fact that he's doing 2 series. And I just want to know, on behalf of the Daily Mail and the President of the United States of America, when is there finally going to be a straight white Doctor? It's been just 2 doctors now, and we haven't had one.
Right?
Well, with a kind of straight one in the middle, but that's not the point. We don't worry about facts.
And let's be sure to focus on the kind of too, because even though Mavity drove you nuts at the point where they're agreeing on how Isaac Newton was hot, and he's like, "Oh, is that the kind of man I am now, or is that who I am now?" I'm like, "Oh, that was a nice little moment. I enjoyed that."
With Moffat, with RTD's rule. Like again, if you're going to make that rule, you have only gay actors playing gay characters. Like, so it's all right if the straight actor or outwardly facingly straight actor, again, I don't know, plays bi or it's this saying that David Tennant's bi, which is kind of outing him by character, which is very weird. Again, if you get into this area, there is a lot of uncomfortable questions you have to answer. Again, I'm not against it, and I do want to be respectful of other communities and their chosen ways of being expressed. That's not for me to decide. I just wish I understood the principle a bit better.
Well, when this happened, there was one other thing that I understood why it was happening, and I kind of alluded to this before. First of all, I think, and I'm probably completely wrong, but I believe that probably the intention was for there to be, it was probably 2 with a strong option on a 3rd. And I think Nchuti probably came to the table and said, "This is more work than I thought. I've got other things going now. So I think we need to call it here." And that's the reason why we get this story that seems to end cleanly and beautifully. Questionably, where do we go next? And then we go into a completely different story. So they had to thread Poppy in to get themselves to the regeneration. Now, the only other thing that I had issue with that in regards to it, is that here we have the first actor who has been both out and of color as the Doctor. And you introduce this amazing concept of bi-generation to us, where the Doctor that you love, they now are off living their own life. But here for this first Doctor of color and alternative sexuality, I'm sorry for using the term, but I'm just trying to find a way to convey my thought here. Different than standard. Not even. Never mind. I'm digging a hole here, and I can't.
We
get
know
it.
what you mean.
Thank you.
Let's go with gay.
And suddenly, bi-generation is now going to be off the table because they thematically and story wise, they can't have him around after whatever happened. So I in a way, I really did not like that. I did not like the way they took this amazing movement and this amazing concept they gave us to give us all the warm fuzzies and instantly like, oh, we got to take it away here. No, bi-generation's off the table this time. And
also you got the kind of thing of the whole Poppy thing, because like when the Doctor's falling, he goes, the Poppy's real. You know what that means. And the next breath they basically say she's not real, but he's going to make her real because he cares for her, which is actually what's happening. But they right away say that she isn't real. And then at the end, she is real, but she's no longer the Doctor's daughter, which seems like a huge cop-out. He's just spent all this time and energy making her exist again, saying how bonded he is to her, and then he just walks away, which also, if you really think about it, calls to mind all the negative stereotypes about black men, like black fathers not being there for their kids, which isn't true to the way it's presented, but you're reinforcing that stereotype, but you're not by that, which is feels very uncomfortable now I've realized it. And again, I'm not saying it's the most obvious thing, but it's like you have to be careful when you're dealing with firsts. This is what I'm saying.
Yep. And also, does anyone else in the room have a problem with the fact that only Ruby, who lived this alternative life in 73 yards, that helped because it was somewhat mystical and somewhat science, gives her the ability to see through the veil of change, but the Time Lord, who has rewritten time and lived alternate realities in that sense, then can't?
This is why I thought at first the Doctor was pretending that he didn't know about Poppy, just for Belinda's sake, and I thought he winked at Ruby at one point, and sort of as if to say, I believe you, and then it turned out actually that wasn't the case, and he had actually forgotten, and I thought, what, how? Like you say, if he's been to all time and space and in every dimension known to man, and he can't see through that veil.
And they sort of played that they wanted to deny that was happening when you've just shown he's done everything to believe in this baby. So that seems like we got a few comments from the floor. I'm just going to bring in these. Come in while we've been chatting. Maybe I'm missing something, but the Rani said she survived by flipping her DNA. So if the Master's actions is what caused them to be sterile, how did the Rani get affected? Shouldn't she be sterile? I suppose it's such a generic term is the problem. Double O Insider, I agree with you, but it's such a generic term that she flipped her DNA a little to the right or whatever they worded it, that could change some things and not others. I agree with you. It's weak source, but there is a sort of explanation there. Again, it's involving us writing it though.
It's RDD science. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is definitely shoddy. You're right. How did she end up?
If I had to point something out, I'd probably say something along the lines of maybe she used the chameleon arch for the Time War, and once the Time War was over and done with, maybe she went back to just being the Rani again.
Well, that's what I wanted to begin.
She was probably rocking it, sort of flying about the universe after the Time War, maybe.
See, all those circles though, you have to walk in just to get it to work. It's Rose said, Rose Kirby, hey, hello, good evening from the UK, also from the UK, and we've got America up there.
Hello.
And hello, good morning, afternoon, good evening. I hope you enjoyed Wishworld and Reality War. So you're going to say, mate?
I was just going to say, clearly you hear the accent for the guy that won't shut up. And it's like instantly you'd assume not in the UK. I get it. But contrary to everything that I have said, though, I will say that there were enough little elements throughout it where I love about 50% of the episode. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
I mean, I still
Yeah.
enjoyed it, but it
Yeah.
was just how some of the choices play out is where my problem was. I mean, like, I can even put to the side trying to work out the logic of some of these things for the sake of story, but it's like when in the long run, only about 50% of it did I really enjoy. It's
Yeah,
got enough to it to like it.
and take Omega out of it, you've got a stronger episode, and you save Omega for when you're actually going to explore him. Like, he is another
Exactly.
fantastic character where you've got so much to play with there, and they sell him out and change his backstory. It's just I don't get it. Fall of the 11th, really like the episode. Billy being brought in just stinks of Russell saying, "Oh no, our lead just quit and we don't have anyone cast yet to take it forward." We're going through his bonus. I think this is more planned. I think he's planned that. I honestly don't buy that this is a last minute decision. I think RTD thinks this is a good idea. I mean, that's a fine theory though, but I can't disprove it.
If that were the case, other than trying to get people talking, I mean, we're doing it. We are doing it. We are a representation of what's going on out in the Doctor Who community. So it worked. But if that were the case too, it would be just as easy as when the regeneration completely covered his face. You could cut right there and have less controversy, but still discussion. It's like, what, we didn't get to see it. What is this about?
Do you know, I think they because I thought for a second when they had the broken glass that was going to cut. And I think the problem is, and the reason why they didn't want to do this is because they knew the Disney Plus deal was coming to the end. So if you cut it there and you don't show regeneration, which they might have actually tacked on later, there is a possibility this was a change that, they were going to land it there to then reveal the Doctor the next series. I think it might have been that they knew the numbers were a little soft for Disney Plus, that it wasn't getting renewed by them, and they didn't want people to think it was cancelled. Because if you don't show the regeneration and that's the backstory, people are going to worry it's going to get cancelled. I think that was genuinely a decision to stop Doctor Who fans panicking. I think RTD at least respect the community enough for that. Like, we may argue over other things, but.
And what were you going to say, Eliza?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I have heard that the regeneration was filmed after, like, in April, I think, or something like that, sort of very last minute. And I agree with what you were saying as well. Like, I think they were going to do something similar with Trial of a Time Lord in 1986. They were going to end that series with the Doctor in the Valeyard tumbling into the darkness and then cut to black. But because Doctor Who's future back then was uncertain, they didn't want to end it on something like that was quite final.
Parallel.
So I agree with what you're saying. They've done this just to get people talking and to make sure there's a future out there somewhere, even if it is a crap one.
Well, and I to give you guys some perspective from this side of the pond, I have spent the majority of this season frustrated every Saturday morning because I'm looking at the app and I'm like, why is it not in the banner up top like it was last season? Why am I having to go to search to find Doctor Who on here? It's almost in a way as though Disney purposely suppressed it so they would be able to have the argument of numbers to not support the episode and not support continuing the contract. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I know what you may have an opinion of Americans right now. I'm not one of them. I am an American, but I'm not one of those wacky nut job conspiracy theorists. But it seems suspicious on this side.
It's interesting. We don't get it on Disney Plus. We get it on iPlayer and obviously BBC One. So it's interesting to hear from a different perspective how it's being presented over there. So that's really interesting.
But interestingly enough, it used to be when you went on iPlayer, you could see the Whoniverse as one of the banner things. You saw it very early on things. Yeah. Now it's kind of buried down. I've kind of a few times had to
you have to scroll down a bit, don't you?
Find Doctor Who. It's not as front and center as it was. They're not doing the push they did on it before. And it's like, okay, yeah, I think there's some problems with the show they could improve to get it more popular again. However, BBC have to do their bit and actually advertise it and actually put it prominently. Otherwise, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of it kind of going into a doom spiral like it did. I mean, the parallels you've just drawn, I think you could draw a lot more parallels between this moment and that moment where Doctor Who was cancelled before. And I hope they get out of the nosedive before they did last time. Anyway, for the end, I also genuinely didn't like how Ruby is clearly freaking out and panicking in the TARDIS. The first thing he and Belinda do is laugh in her face. Yes, I agree with you. Even after all the Susan stuff, it was like her. I agree. I don't like whenever the Doctor seems like a bully or like railing on that guy, basically torturing that guy, and they sort of excused it by, oh, well, I was triggered, and you're sort of following the Doctor like he's your friend again the next scene in the same day. It's like, I'm not ready for you to be that again after you've just beaten a guy up. That's not my Doctor. So don't do that and then expect me to just ignore it. It really pissed me off.
Not to mention, how about the fact they're just laughing and making plans in front of his ex?
Yeah.
Kind of in a way, you know?
Yeah. And
I didn't like what they did with Belinda in that episode at all. Like, they ruined her character so much.
Yeah.
Like,
I
thought she was a great companion, but that last episode, they just ruined her.
I feel like since we cast Jodie, no disrespect to how the show now feels like each generation has to get even crazier and more insane than the last one in time to grab ratings. I mean, I'd say in some of the effects of explaining the TARDIS, they always have to one-up it. I think the choices, I've got no problem with any of the choices they've made. Like, this is the first time I think they've really gone back in the past, but I think having the first is definitely something I think is great and gives you an engine for more stories. Literally, the story in the engine being one of the best episodes in these last 2 seasons. It was so powerful, and it's a story you could only tell. And you had a Asian companion talking to a Black Doctor about what it's like to feel outcast amongst your own community, and then going somewhere where you feel so accepted. That's really powerful. That's Comic-Con to me. Mm-hmm. So I really related from that side of it, but I agree with the going back. Maybe I have no problem with them doing first, though. It depends on what you're getting at, basically, I suppose. Jackie Tyler 17. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm against. I'm with you 100%. Unquestioning there. The Doctor.
I'd rather have Jackie Tyler than Billy Piper, to be honest.
Camille Jury is amazing. The Doctor literally left his companion in an alternate life where she now has a single mum with a random bloke we never see, despite episode 1 make it clear we did not want her to be tied down at all.
Yeah. This is what I mean. They ruined the character. They ruined what she was sort of built up to be at the start.
Right. And I absolutely loved the concept of the reluctant companion. I really liked that. It was a new take. It was interesting. But, you know, and then within the show itself, they completely retcon the character. So, you know, now we're supposed to think every time she mentions her parents, you know, now we go back and say she's talking about getting back to Poppy instead. I'm sorry I spoke over you, Eliza. What did you say?
No, I was just agreeing with you. I was just sort of saying that within 8 episodes, like, they've totally retconned her. Like,
yeah. It's absolute crud. I mean, especially when we had just come off of the Interstellar song contest. I mean, like, how adorable was it the moment they just stop and go, and she goes, "Oh, we're staying. We're totally staying." You know, and it was just a good, endearing moment. And the character, she was so much fun, even in her reluctance. You know, because realistically, I think if you're a normal person and suddenly this bloke shows up and is taking you off in his TARDIS and you're having to experience all this, you're not instantly going to trust him, you know. And if you're a reasonable person, you're not going to trust all of his science magic. Go ahead.
I'm a bad judge of character. Like,
there you go. So
my history with men isn't the best.
So that was another disappointing element for me in a way.
It's kind of like, I think Rusty Davis mentioned Tegan as like a reference point, sort of from the 5th Doctor era. She obviously was always wanting to get back to Heathrow Airport, all places. And I think he kind of wanted to talk back to that with a companion who does want to go home, you know. So I really liked that aspect, like you will.
Exactly, and it's someone who wasn't saying yes to the Doctor all the time. That was nice, because all the companions usually do, and usually just go along with this insane ideas. So someone actually saying no and challenging him is always really exciting to do. It's the Donna Noble of it all. You give a different energy for the Doctor to play against, and it worked beautifully. And he, with his charms, won her over. That's what the Doctor does. He's very charming in different ways depending on which Doctor, and he wins everyone or her or they around to their way of thinking. Yeah, we've got a quick one about oh yeah, and by the way, also I did think while you were saying that, Will, before about and she's always going home to the baby. Wasn't the whole point in that two-parter that women aren't subservient, just there to have children and just there as a function, and you kind of do that exact thing at the end? I didn't even think about that until this conversation, but yeah, they do that. Isn't everyone forgetting about Susan? Yeah, we did say everyone. We did say before.
Oh no, we didn't forget.
Yeah, Interstellar 6. But mind you, now Eliza's added that about that it was originally maybe written that last scene for her. That would actually make sense. Maybe she's ill. Well, maybe she was ill, or maybe she had prior commitments. And if it's something like that, and they had to change it, and now they've made her maybe the hotel manager, and she's going to have a cameo later instead, they might have rewritten it in that way. And if it's that, fair enough. That's something they can't have control over. That's like Bernard Crimmins dying. I sort of wish they'd tackled his death in the episode, because it sort of would have been nice for us to process saying goodbye to the character at the same time as we say goodbye to someone who in Britain is so beloved from storytelling and Jack and Ori. From when I was a kid to old black and white films, the song Right Said Fred, which the band get their name from, that's him. There are so many things he's known for in this country, and blood for the Wombles, for fuck's sake. Everyone loves the Wombles, and he was Wilfred, and that was his last thing which everyone got to experience. Our granddad, kind of our favorite uncle, like whoever he's been to us over the years. I sort of wish they'd kind of let the character die with him. Like that would have been so, so sweet a way to tackle it. I think. Anyway,
well, in the long run, RTD will just claim that it was a seed. It was a seed that's being planted for the next series.
Yeah, we're going to just.
I was going to say I fully expected Susan to sort of ride in and team up with the Doctor to stop the Rani. I thought that's the way the story was heading.
Yeah,
and then what they did is they got rid of the story like halfway through the episode, and then had the rest of the episode just going on about Poppy and all that nonsense. And I just thought,
I mean, given we had that horrific scene with, given we had that horrific scene of the 15th Doctor wailing on someone, they could at least had it. Like, I think her turning up and going, it's like, look, you're not being the Doctor anymore. You say goodbye to this, regenerate, like let the regeneration clean this wound from your soul, like in much the way in Captain America, when the Captain America of the moment beheaded someone with the shield, only by passing on to the next Captain America, you do remove that blood from the shield that otherwise could never come off. And having the first black Captain America, given the storyline they told of Isaiah Bradley, which was straight from the comics, was a lovely way of doing that. And if you're going to do it, I would at least like some closure on that. But they basically in one line just said, nah, it's all right. Yeah. And Susan would have been perfect to do that. But anyway, Susan was cut from the episode because she was supposed to be in the original ending where the Doctor and Belinda are at her mum's gig in Manchester, and it would have ended with Susan overlooking them. I get the feeling there was some Susan writing which had to be done. And again, if they had to do it because of the actor, fair enough. Again, sometimes there is a necessity. She's not the youngest, so there are potential health things that she might have been suffering from, which would hit her harder than the younger actors. So it's worth just considering that. But if they've done it on purpose, no. Hey, one thing I didn't get in was which world on the 23rd that reality vanished, nothing happened, but then on the 24th, everything in that episode was true. Yep. Space magic. I think the people from unit can remember. I think it's going to be the excuse because they were exposed to the time door. Maybe. Also, would personally prefer Cathy regenerate into Joe Martin. I thought maybe it was going to happen for a second, actually, and I think that would have been a nice twist on it. And she'd be the actual 16th Doctor, actually seeing her as the Doctor. Yeah, I would have loved that. And we explored the mystery of the fugitive Doctor, or get Paul McGann and let him do it. Yeah.
I've been happy with those.
Yeah. It definitely feels like after season 1, that Disney was no longer interested in pushing the show for international audiences. Honestly, we've got quite a few more comments. I'm just going to skip to the last one. Sorry, please do read all the comments. Thank you very much. I will read them all and reply to them personally at the end, but been going for 2 hours and it's sweltering here. Like being a nurse, boring, help them save lives in society. Nah, that old lady who came to thank me for saving her life get out of here, old timer. It's mum mode now, and RTD will call you sexist. I have no idea what you're saying. I think I have to read the previous comments, which
I think basically what they're saying is Belinda is still a nurse. It is said
yeah.
that she is still a nurse at the end of the episode, but she's obviously balancing
Oh,
that with being a mum now, and the mum's sort of taken over the role of her being a nurse.
I mean,
Um,
honestly, I know that's the point I was kind of making earlier with some other bits, but I didn't get that from that. I thought that was actually a really nice way of saying nurses do everyday acts of kindnesses, which might save a life
Yeah.
because they take the extra 5 minutes. I think it was just a shorthand way of saying that. And you use the doctor's arrogance, which, trust me, I know quite a lot of NHS nurses who the stories of the doctors sort of very much rings true to what they were demonstrating here. Anecdotally, from what I've heard from first-hand sources, that does tend to be the way. So I agree with your point, and he does do that in some points, like with the disabled thing. Kind of, it feels like calling out allies more than calling out people who aren't supportive, which I don't think is the way you do it. But I think in that one there was a purpose to it, and you sort of have to shorthand in writing. So I know I'm kind of probably dancing on the head of a pin here, but that to me does feel like the difference. I don't know what you guys think.
no, I agree. Yeah, it's a very fine line to tread, I think, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
and I think people obviously from different backgrounds and things will read into things a little bit differently and sort of have their own interpretations of it.
Because it really annoys me when people do say whenever there's any representation on TV, and namely here Doctor Who, it's automatically you're just doing that for representation. No, representation is really important, and having something different doesn't mean it's just there because it's different. Although having something different does mean you open up different stories. So don't you want that after 60 years of a TV show? Maybe throwing in some new element is really exciting. However, then there's like being so right on, you insult the people who are on your side. And I just think that always empowers people who then say it's just representation for the sake of it when it's not, because you're giving them stuff which is. It disempowers when you're not doing that, if that makes sense. I want to make the best case for the left, and I don't think telling people off all the time, as we found in the American election, sorry to bring up again, Will, but
No
that
worries.
was so evident in there. And that pisses me off as someone on the left. And I think we're doing the same over here on doing Trump light to appease him. And we've seen how appeasing him works for people. I think we're just as fucked because we're doing the same shit. I mean, it's just, so I'm with you. I'm not just saying this on behalf of you, but it's like in behalf of where we're going if we don't wise up and make those more sensible decisions. And telling off your friends is a really easy way to lose everything and to lose the argument because you're not bringing people along with you. I would rather take someone who's 90% with me, who will listen to me and talk to them about the 10% we don't agree with and bring them around than call them an arsehole because we disagree on 10%. It's not how you bring people around to your argument. The right always says their argument until people agree, manipulates facts and in fact to sell it, whereas the left's scared to say what they believe and they insult people who are along with them. It's just fucking stupid. It's not gonna win the day.
Just like in the episode with Conrad, it's all a matter of just attempting to pit people against each other so they're distracted from what's really going on. So and believe me, I have plenty of thoughts I would love to share, but I'm just not going to do them here because this is Doctor Who and not Doctor What the hell is going on in my life.
Well, you've been listening to Doctor Who Stories from the End Times on Gallifrey Stands,
right? Is it Gallifrey Stands or is it Gallifrey Falls again? Who knows?
I want to end on a cheery note.
No, I did like the comment about Paul McGann though, because I'm just like, I mean, the one thing that we have to remember, okay, is that if the Disney Plus deal had not happened, we more than likely would not have received these two great seasons that we did. Whether we liked the finales or not, or we liked the regeneration or not, I had a wonderful journey on this. I mean, honestly speaking, I thought Ncuti really hit stride with this season. The writing was right, his performance was right on the money. It was giving me so much hope for the future. But in a way, it's kind of like, maybe this is just something that you can't involve American money in because it didn't work out with the BBC and Fox partnership on the Doctor Who movie with Paul McGann and
how come they didn't get those characters back to use? Because on audio they've had in the a lady who plays Grace Holloway, Dash F. Thank you very much. And Yuji Cho, who played God, what am I doing with names today? His character name. Anyway, from the TV movie, those two characters, they've had them both appear like the actors on audio dramas, but they couldn't use the characters. And it's like, surely didn't Fox get brought out by Disney? Don't Disney have all the characters now? Like, they couldn't have written that into the deal. Like, surely that's something they don't give a shit about.
Bit different. I think there's a little bit. The rights issues for Big Finish were a little bit different, I think.
But usually, like, if BBC basically, and RTD's always been really friendly to Big Finish. Actually, when you had Joe Martin's doctor a couple episodes ago, and she said, maybe my story will be told one day. They've just released some Big Finish audios which go through her story. I think that was a nod to that, not the TV show, which I like. I actually really like that. There was, when you did have Paul McGann make the reprise for the 50th, they named a load of companions. They were all his companions from the audio dramas. I think it's nice when they do a few nods to the audio. Well, I don't mind stuff like that, but I forget what point.
Well, even Omega, at the end of Wishworld, the Omega clip that they used was from one of the Big Finish audios as well.
Yeah.
That was Stephen Thorne. Yeah. And then they replaced him with Nicholas Briggs for the next episode.
Oh, that's great. I love that. So doing stuff like that, it's all gravy. But yes, I forget what point I was making, but I wish they got the rights from that. But I think, though, we can all agree the moment when they really ruined it with the Disney Plus BBC deal is when they put the month before the day goes, then the month, then the year. It's in number order for a fucking. I'm sorry, America, but the only better one, because it's better for filing, is in one of the Asian countries, somewhere around the region of China. I know it's one of the countries does it the other order, so you get year, month, day. That's better for filing. So I will bow down to a superior search service. I'm not saying we've got the system perfect, but I'm just saying getting in wrong order, which, by the way, sorry, just going to end on this, and it's the worst note to end an episode on. But when I used to share a house with someone from America, we genuinely both Googled it because we were wondering why. And you can't find anything anywhere. All we could sort of work out was when America split up with the UK, to basically say fuck you to the British, they changed everything, including like that, just for the sake of it, just to like not have the same system as us. And I think that's probably true and probably fair, but it's like it just bakes my noodle because it's not in number order. It's a very neurodivergent problem. I'm not going to lie, but when I saw that on my screen in the first episode and they put the month first, I'm going, it's not even Doctor Who anymore. Doctor Who really is dead. Like, all these trolls have been wrong all these years. This killed it. I think that's fair.
Well, I'm just glad to hear that my naming convention for all of my digital files is on point. Since I go, like, today would be 2025 0601 if I were creating a file.
Oh.
The beauty of it is because I am genuinely joking, but also, for me to have come up with that, it definitely happened in my head also. The two are both true. I am joking, but the thought definitely occurred to me, and it definitely burnt me on some autistic level, quite frankly.
No, man, being here in the States, it even smacked me in the face. I'm like, what is this? That's not right. Oh, that's going to piss the Brits off. That's what I thought.
We're so easily wound up by these stupid little things. It's great. Yeah. So from me, Dr. Squee from Eliza.
Hello. Bye-bye.
And from Will Wilkins from NetHeads. Please check it out now, wherever you get your podcasts.
Geronimo.
And Will, I will message you about setting something up for Squeefest. And please do check out. Yeah, please check out my launch video from Squeefest, which was earlier on in the same feed that you're watching this in now. Wherever you're watching this, you can find that. And or if you're watching in Gallifrey Stands, just go to my profile and you'll find full details there, which is our charity fundraiser coming up at the end of this month. So, guys, from Gallifrey Stands, until we meet again, live like you've got two hearts, and please be kind.